Call her Jacqueline. Say, kitty, 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 kitty. Go down and pat her, Jack. Go down and pat her. See, she's rubbing on you. She really likes you. Just bend right down and pat her. Bend right down on your legs, pal. Sit down, character. He's such a nice kitty. Hey kitty, come on kitty. Come on little kitty. You wanna come see what we're doing here? Yeah, come have a look. Here you go kitty. There you go kitty. There you go. Yeah, that's a nice kitty. What's that? Such a nice kitty, right? What we just saw is what the ravine looked like back in '97. And it's just so, you know, so calm. There's no sign of logs coming down. There's no erosion. There's no debris buildup. And you've always said that that's what you remember when you moved in. And you moved in what year, Terry?
We moved in '89.
Sure.
And enjoyed, at least I enjoyed it, because I spent a lot of time down there, just walking up the ravine.
Yeah.
And then subsequent to that, in in the late 90s when my grandchildren were being born, I used to walk with them up the ravine, and we would be able to walk the creek bed, which in the summer months was dry most of the time, with the exception of the odd little pool of water.
Yeah.
The kids used to enjoy it because of all the gnats that were scurrying around the top.
Yeah.
And they'd stir the water with a stick, and then we'd move on to the next little puddle. Every once in a while, we might run into a little bit of water, maybe a quarter-inch of flow, which they thought was really cool. We had rubber boots on, it wasn't a problem. And we did that for a number of years. Every year, we'd pick 1 or 2 days, and we'd all trek up, up the creek. And then we started to notice in the last number of years that the water flow was increasing, that it was muddy, that there was a lot of debris that made it very difficult for the kids to climb over. They were young, and it was getting dangerous to the point that we stopped doing this. 6 or 7 years ago. We just said, no more. It's getting too difficult, and their mothers were getting a little concerned that they could hurt themselves.
Sure.
Yes, and at that point in time, I found my enjoyment of the ravine had lessened somewhat. Looking at it from the top of the ravine, of course, it's still a beautiful place, but going down there was becoming a bit of a challenge, so we just ceased any activity in that ravine. Yeah,
and when you've often said when your first recollections where you could walk down the ravine from your house, and the culvert, of course, is right there, and you could walk right into the culvert.
Absolutely.
It was straight in. There was nothing.
Absolutely. There was no debris. There was very little water flow. As a matter of fact, it seemed like a very big culvert for so little water.
Yeah.
And yet it was very efficient. And when there was any rain or any problem, the water, of course, very quickly went through the culvert.
Sure.
And within hours, you had, if not a dry creek bed again, there was very little water. It was never a problem. There was never a concern of anybody falling and drowning or even getting themselves injured.
That's right.
And that changed.
Yeah, and what we've seen here on this very short video is there's leaves on the ground, in the creek area, and now what happens is we get flooding. The flooding floats the leaves, brings them into the creek, and just causes plugging everywhere, and sticks, and not just that, we get, and you've got a huge collection of logs and everything down at that culvert area is just unbelievable. And you look at here, it doesn't even have enough energy to float the leaves away.
It's a very idyllic setting in these pictures.
Oh,
but down there now, it borders on dangerous because there is so much activity. At the logs, debris, as a matter of fact, a lot of glass and other stuff has kind of floated up to the surface, so I'm very careful. As a matter of fact, I tend not to even go down anymore because it just isn't a comfortable or safe place to be.
From 1997, and now this is 2011, and we just see the amount of water flow and the mud that we've got coming down, the fallen trees that have come down, and the water damage the flooding damage that's been done to our properties. And that's really the same area that we just looked at just a few minutes ago, where there was no evidence of anything, like no flooding, no mud, not even much evidence of water drainage at all. Even though there is water drainage there, it's really quite minor. And this used to be, you and your family and your dog used to come down and play here all the time. And it was just like a private park.
It was, and then, as the flooding comes in, and it brings all the sediment down, and all the weeds start to grow. I mean, this used to be just grass. and now encroaching onto our lawn, there's more and more weeds. I'm just cutting weeds now. And it just seems to just keep filling up with mud and dirt, and now we've got land that goes like this. It's all over the place, and we don't really let the dog down here much when it's in the spring, especially because it's just so muddy. And then when we get a backfill of water and mud, it's just, we don't even let the kids down here. It's just so deep and so thick, and it's just creating weeds now when it dries up.
Yeah, I noticed, Stuart, last year you spent quite a bit of time and put a fence around.
I did, and that was to try to keep the dog from coming down.
Yeah.
Just because it was just getting into a mud bath every time. So we've just sort of cut it off halfway and said that's where the dog can go, and sort of left it to there.
That seems to work out pretty well. I see the dog still gets out for a run all the time, gets outside, and you don't have to go in and give him a bath every time.
Yeah, but as you can see, the weeds along the riverbank are just getting thicker, and it's just getting really hard to cut, and just to maintain the property to where we like it. That massive flood, we had water that actually backed up to the bottom of our trampoline.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, so down here it must have been this high of water.
Yeah, as Neil said, you look out there and your playset looked like a derrick in the Gulf of Mexico.
Yeah, it did. It did.
Yeah. Weed down here, Stuart.
I know.
What the weeds that I hate most are these ones that look like clover, except they got jagged leaves.
Yeah.
Like here. They just get in and they spread with a vine, like these things here.
Yep.
They're just.
Yeah.
I
just now, whatever this is, just.
Yeah, it's all weeds. Yeah, which all used to be grass.
Yeah. And we don't put any weed killer or anything down here because obviously the dogs, the kids, the water.
Right.
So we try to leave it as natural as possible.
Yeah.
And just trying to maintain it. But I don't put any weed killer down here. But it's just the amount of sediment and everything just brings all that through, and with all the weeds, and it just grows.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm as I said, I'm hoping that we can get City of Burlington to take responsibility for all of the flooding and the drainage issues that they've caused, and remediate this for us.
Yeah. And what you can see is going to happen over time, we're starting to get lulls.
Yeah.
And that's where the water's just going to sit and the sediment's going to sit. It needs to be filled in and just...
Yeah, and it's really not hard to do, that's for sure. As I said, like I've said on your property, which is really a decent size down here, I've said you could easily take 30 cubic yards and 300 square yards of sod to cover it, and that would leave a soil depth of
about 3 inches.
3 inches. So it isn't like it's going to be massively up on the tree trunks or anything.
No, it actually would just fill in some of the holes.
It would just basically, that's it. Yeah, it would be graded and...
Yeah, and that's what it needs, is also good grading.
Yeah. Anyway, if you just look here, remember last fall, this was just, we had a flood, and then we were left with this gigantic amount of mud. Right. That I haven't seen that much mud in about 10 years. That, we had flooding before, it brings a little bit, but this was just really a mess, and it's just covered everything alongside the creek. Like we're about 100 meters from the drain.
Oh yeah, it flooded this whole area with mud, because originally I was thinking I'd put in a skating rink down here for the kids, but it was just several inches deep of mud.
Oh, it was.
I couldn't use it at all. Unfortunately, it's the only flat spot, but I actually dug a little
trench
to help drain some of the water away so the mud would dry out.
Yeah. Yeah, it really has changed, because I know, your kids are getting older and they enjoy playing around, but every time they come down, they just get covered in mud, and you notice you don't have your dog down here too much anymore.
Oddly enough, for a water dog, he doesn't like getting his feet wet or muddy, because then it results in a bad. I mean, my kids, the rule is usually they got to come down here in rubber boots.
Yes.
It's so money having, they'll be
yeah.
up to the neck.
we were talking last year about if we could get about 40 cubic yards of soil to spread around your area and about 400 square yards of sod to cover it, that would get rid of the soil that they have to excavate, and that would leave about 3.5 inches of soil around the area. It's not like we're going to pile up some gigantic amount along the tree trunks. We're going to bring it in about 3 inches to cover that, and then put some sod on top.
That would certainly help control my weed and mud problem at the very least.
Absolutely. Oh, this is just...
They have to haul away if they can just dump it. I mean,
yeah.
Time should be quicker now.
Oh yeah, like if you